Hey everyone, welcome back. It's Ashley, and I have got a bit of a long intro coming today for good reason. I am joined by a woman who literally does it all and then some. Alana Stott is here with me today. She is a best-selling author, producer, publisher, anti-human trafficking consultant, security specialist, philanthropist, entrepreneur, founder, CEO, wife, mother of three. Not to mention, she is former Mrs. Scotland and awarded the great honor and title of MBE, member of the Most Excellent Order of the British Empire, for her important work supporting vulnerable women and mental health awareness. She has many more ventures and accolades to count. Alana is dedicated to empowering women and children, showing us that anything is possible. And I believe it's safe to say that she is doing an amazing job. And it is an incredible honor that you join me here on the podcast. So, with that, and without any pressure, Alana, welcome. Thanks so much for being here.
I need to shorten that somehow, don't I? I need to I don't know, maybe stop doing some of it.
No, don't stop. Don't stop. It's amazing. It's really incredible just to learn more about you and your background and all the work that you've been doing. And before we get started, we got to share the love, got to give a shout out and thank you to our mutual friend, the amazing Nancy Gale, for connecting us.
She is amazing. I loved your podcast with her. It literally was her. Like, you can't take that smile off her face.
I was just gonna say, she has this effect. When I speak about her, I also can't help but smile.
It is
Yeah.
like when people complain and like everything she's been through and she's still got that huge smile on her face. It's like, no, you can't complain.
It's amazing. And in just a short time of knowing her as well, she has really left such a strong mark on my heart. And I'm grateful for that. And now to be able to connect with you, who she has just spoke about in the best and highest regard, is really awesome. So thankful to share this space with you and have this conversation.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to it.
So, this podcast is all about our personal stories and overcoming adversity, and you are certainly no stranger to that. And while I have yet to read your book, She Who Dares, I understand that you have been very open about the trauma that you have faced as a child and share deeply personal experiences. And I know how influential childhood can be later in life and just on our perspectives and motivations. And you have achieved a lot and are doing significant, impactful work around the world and alongside your husband, Dean. And so I would love to start there and just learn more about how those early years in your life have really set the stage for the resilience and strength and ambition that you carry today and in all that you're doing.
Yeah, well, I was born in Aberdeen in Scotland, and I was in, I guess, my early years, pre 7 years old. I can only really remember happiness. We didn't have much. We didn't have money, and my dad was a bus driver. Then my mum worked in like cleaning houses and things. But it was like a loving environment. Me and my older brother, we grew up there. Then my mum and dad got divorced when I was about 7. We lost the house that we were in. We moved into an apartment, and I guess I would say the first knock really would be well, obviously mum and dad's divorce, but then I got burnt when I was about 8, and that was literally, we were just at like a trunk sale type thing, and came home. I was making some tea, and I stood on a stool, and I just carried this big silver urn, and I tripped over on the stool, and the water came down on me. So I was then in hospital for about 6 months, and in an incubation unit for quite a while in there. And during that time in the hospital, actually the first week I was really, really sick, and they thought it was stress, and then they realized that I had appendicitis, and then my appendix burst, and they rushed me down into theatre. So I got that removed, and then I got my skin graft, and it was all within like the same period. And then while I was in the hospital, my mum came in for one of my dressings changes, and we found out that she was pregnant because she fainted while I was screaming during one of the painful dressings. So she was pregnant. I was in hospital. I was basically doing my schooling in the hospital. I was learning while I was growing there. I would spend my days just really talking to the other. There was one particular girl who was in a coma, so I would just read books to her most of the day. But then I would like help the nurses and help make beds and do like little things there just to keep me going and then I eventually got some weekend visits home, and then I could get home in the end. But my mum was pregnant to a guy that she'd been dating. He was a much younger guy, and I think he struggled just having children. And then so when my younger brother was born, he was immediately put into my bedroom to look after. So I guess I was like 9 at this point, and I was looking after him, looking after myself. Like I was in a pressure garment for a year, and then yeah, they ended up separating, and then I had kind of looked after my brother pretty much all the time. When I was about 11, I started working because mum was struggling just to pay for things on her own. So I started in a railway cafe. They didn't pay in cash to start with; they paid in food, but it was nice food. So it was great because I got to learn about customer service and using a cash register and all these types of things. Then I done a few other jobs, and when I was about 13, my older brother was trying to get work, so he wanted to work in telemarketing. So, but he was too scared to make the phone call for the job. So I called up and I said, "Look, my brother's looking for a job." And then she was like, "Great, but would you like work?" And I said, "Well, I'm only 13." And she said, "It's cash." So I said, "Great." So I started working in telemarketing, which was commission only, and I really enjoyed that buzz, I guess. So during this period, my mom was dating someone else, and he turned out to be a really violent guy and was being really abusive to her. And one particular night, he tried to kill her, and he pulled a knife, and I had to kind of talk him off the ledge from killing her. So um, that she from that point, I guess, I think from one particularly bad beating, she got really sick, and then she got more and more sick, and then we found out she had cancer, and she wasn't given a high success rate straight away. So she couldn't work, and I had to up my work. So I was basically watching my younger brother going to school and then doing different jobs, and then eventually, unfortunately, she passed away. And my younger brother's dad got custody of him and took him back down to live in England, which is where he was living at the time. So I guess 15 by this point when he finally got custody, I decided I couldn't really live without him. I'd raised him for the last 5 years, 6 years. So I moved down to where he was living and just got a job in a hotel and started working in hotels and things there. But I was 16 on my own, surrounded by a lot of older people. So things happen. And unfortunately, one evening I was sexually assaulted by two men. And then once I went to the police and they got arrested, and then I went through the court case and discovered there was 9 other people came forward. So that was really when I started learning about what it was like in the kind of victim advocacy side of things, and I didn't like the process of the court, the trial, everything that you go through. I mean, it was a while ago, but you're face to face with your perpetrators in court, and then you've got the questions that you get asked as a woman when these things happen to you. So I thought, I don't want this to happen to other people. So that was when I really started on my advocacy, I guess, for women. And that was when I started to learn about childhood sexual abuse and on to human trafficking. And I learned about grooming and trafficking and everything that goes with that. So that really started me on that trajectory on saying, well, helping women and kids, I guess, was what my path was going to be.
Having gone through those experiences that you did so young that were traumatic in that way, and spending that time in the hospital and then with your brother, what are some of the biggest things that you learned about yourself at such a young age that you went through?
I think seeing that the bad things can happen, it's how we we deal with it. While I was in the hospital, I could have laid in that bed every day, or I could get up and I could do things and I could learn things. I would get schoolwork in every day and I quickly would rush through that. I don't know, the difference between homeschooling and going to school. You do get a lot of work done when you're just by yourself, just doing it. And then, my little brother was a really important part of my life and I loved him to pieces, but I had to learn how to prioritize and organize, to get up really early, get him ready, get to school, get work done, pick him up, get the home life done. And I think I'm not saying it's a blessing, but to learn all that really young, the one thing that I did pick up really, really early on was that the buck stops for me. There was nobody I could turn to say, like, I need help here, or like, if baby's crying, I need somebody who can take over, or if bills need to be paid, is there somebody else that can do it? Like, the buck did stop with me. So having that installed in you from a really young age, maybe not the best way of being, but I think for life it served me really, really well. And it's really, really difficult as a mum now to not want that same for my kids, but to want them to still have some of that resilience and that fight. I think I always used to refer to it as like the fear, like not knowing if you could pay the bills and having that little fear in you to keep working and keep going to make sure the electricity's on and to make sure there's food in the house. I think that I don't think my kids have ever experienced that fear, but it's a balancing act. It's how do I give them an amazing life, but give them some of that resilience too.
For sure. And those lessons that you only learn by certain experiences yourself. I'm curious to learn more about the inspiration behind the memoir that you wrote and just that process. It's very vulnerable and very raw in a lot of ways. And I heard something that stuck with me that you said in another interview, and you quoted a bit from the film Luckiest Girl Alive in the scene about that when Ani, she's discussing her piece, and I think it's her boss who says, write it like no one will ever read it, and that's how you know that what you write is worth a reading. And I think that that's really a powerful statement on vulnerability. And so I wanted to bring this up, if you could just share more about the process of writing this and maybe some of those breakthrough moments that you've had and what your thought process was like throughout that.
Mm-hmm. I always loved writing. Writing was always something that was a little bit of therapy for me. So journaling was something that I always done just to take notes and things. When my husband, so he, for anybody who doesn't know, he broke 2 world records. He was out of the UK Special Forces, injured out, and then cycled the world's longest road. And when he wrote his book, and people would read it, and people would say, "Oh, when's Alana's book coming out?" Like, because there's so much of me in that book. And there was so much of the book that I would read and I would say, I think of it in a different way. Like I like what he's saying in that scenario, I remember it a different way, or in my viewpoint, it will come across differently. So there was that idea, but it was a friend of mine who was going through some struggles that I'd also gone through. And she said, like, talking to me and knowing that somebody else is going through it was enough therapy, that you're not on your own. And I think I guess it was during COVID as well. There was things going on with J.K. Rowling, and her abuser one of the tabloid newspapers had given him a platform, and I think the headline was something like, "I enjoyed hitting J.K. Rowling." It was disgusting, basically, and that led me to do a podcast. And when I was speaking to this lady on the podcast, she asked me, and I'd never really openly talked about it outwards. And I thought, actually, if it could just help one person to know that how we see assault or how we see the bad things that have happened to us, it is just not a one-stop shop. And a lot of people would say to me, like, how a victim should look. And I would always say, but there's no 2 victims the same. Like, everybody can deal with rape in such a different way. Some people go completely reclusive, some people go completely promiscuous, some people like how you deal with it is, there's no normal way to do it. So I thought, if I'm going to write my story, I'm going to tell it exactly how it is, exactly what the truth is, exactly how it was for me, And if one person can read that and go, oh God, I'm not weird, I'm not on my own, I'm not different, it's not wrong what I do. And just, I think because women are shrouded with shame all the time. Like everything we do has got a shame or guilt element to it. And I thought actually the more people that could speak out and say, this is the real raw truth of how things are. And sometimes it's not pretty and sometimes it's not Hollywood, but this is how it is. I said, that's exactly how I'm going to write. So when I done my first draft of the book, I literally I put everything and I went for it. I said exactly how it was, didn't hold anything back. And when I went to edit it, I didn't want to re-edit it. I got somebody else to edit it for spelling, for checks, for all these things. And I thought, I'm not going to take anything out because it went in raw and it's going to stay that way.
There was no doubt after that. There was no going back in that.
No, I feel like I told I mean, yes, I told my truth to the extent of that I knew my kids might read it one day. I wanted to be respectful of that I'm still their mom. And also I told it from my story. Like I hear so many people that write stories, especially people that have gone through a tough upbringing or have had circumstances that maybe other people don't want you to write about. For example, a kid that might have been brought up in a broken home, if they write a story, like their parents might disagree with some of the things they say, or maybe they see it differently. But I was very clear to write it from my perspective. I didn't tell anybody else's story. I told my story. And I feel like I hopefully, was respectful to everybody that was involved to as much as I could be. But I get messages now from people that read it that do say that thing. I thought I was on my own. I thought I was the only one. I thought it was weird. Like, why am I the way I am? And when you see somebody else is going through it, that's such a good thing to feel that you're not alone. I think as well that if more people are talking about these things, that we shouldn't be feeling shame about the certain things that we maybe have to go through. And funnily enough, me and Nancy have sat down over many a Starbucks across her dining table where we talk about our experiences. And I would be maybe nervous to talk about mine because mine was more of a drug rape scenario. Nancy was viciously attacked, and I would be like, I felt a bit like my rape wasn't good enough. Like when I would be talking to her, and she would say, well, actually, I feel the exact same way the other way around because at least, I have a physical scar or something that you could see. That what happened to you is just fully and people are like, well, she wasn't dragged into a bush and beat up. And it was like, actually, yeah, all these things count. We don't need to put it into a category or a box. I was talking to another lady recently, and she was guilty that the assault hadn't happened. Like, how could she take the person to court when it was only an almost? And I said, well, only an almost is still a violation. It's still, like, it doesn't matter how that is worked. If your mind is being violated, if your body's being violated, it's still assault, it's still abuse, and it still hurts.
I think that there's oftentimes a lot of comparison in our pain, like you're saying, like, oh, it's almost like not good enough, right? And people will apologize and say, oh, I know that whatever it is that you experienced is far worse, and I need to just put this into perspective, and it takes away from their own experience. And I'm curious your take on that, where you think some of that derives from, and why we fall into that as if we are not honoring ourselves and our own experiences.
I think that you have to experience what one person could see as a huge problem. Another person's like, that's nothing. My daughter could be telling me about her friends maybe said something bad about her, or this person's not talking to her, or they, and have I said, well, that's nothing. I've got problems. My problems are real. Like that's nothing. That's not even a problem. Like you try doing this. To her, it's a problem. To her, it's stressful. To her, she's finding it difficult to deal with, and she doesn't know how to process it. So it's as big as me not being able to pay the rent, or the things that maybe I would find stressful. To her, this is stressful. So I don't think we should be putting into categories like how deep a person's trauma is, or how much their pain is, or how much their problem is. But, and also not dismissing how easy it is for me to solve that problem. It takes the same approach. Like, let's sit down and talk about it. Let's see what the problem is. Let's see how we can resolve it. Let's go through it. And I really hate it when we put trauma into categories and boxes of how deep it is, or who's suffered the most, or whose wound is deeper than others, because I really don't think that exists. Like, pain is pain, trauma is trauma.
I love that perspective. I agree 100%. What's dark is dark. And if it matters to somebody, it matters. And I really appreciate your take on that. Fear is a big topic that has been in discussion. What can hold us back from going and pursuing something and doing something? What's your take on fear, and how do you approach that?
Mine would come from my mum was 37 when she passed away, and her life was really, she had us kids and she hoped to do so much in the future, and then 37, it was kind of cut away from her. And I think for my life, I've always just thought of life being that short. Like, it can be taken away at any point. It can be over, and living in your comfort zone is really, really easy to do. But it's not where you're growing. It's not where things are happening. It's not where the magic happens. You have to step outside. You have to face that fear and wonder what the fear is about. What are you actually scared of? You're scared of failing. Well, we have to fail to grow. We have to make those mistakes. We have to learn. We have to keep going. Are you scared of being embarrassed? Like, who is it you're really caring about? Like, who are you worrying about? Who thinks about you? Are you worried about being rejected? Well, what would be the reward if you went for it, rather than worrying about the rejection or the regret? Like, what is the reward that you're looking for? And just getting rid of that anticipation and just being like, is what you want a better feeling than where you are right now? And can we just push past that fear? Because fear is something that we actually enjoy when we can control it. If we go to an escape room or a fun fair or something, or we go on a roller coaster, we're fearful, but we want that rush. Like, so I really do try and embrace fear. I don't say it doesn't exist, and don't get me wrong, if there was a tarantula walked in this room right now, my fear would show a lot. It's trying just to go through that door and not allow the fear to stop you.
Going and doing it with it and having that fear and saying yes to it is really powerful. And so you and your husband, you have gone through major life transitions, and you've spoke a lot on embracing change and adapting in real time with things that are happening. Can you speak more to that mindset?
Yeah, I think we built a life that isn't about materials. It isn't about a specific whole. We've traveled so much. I've traveled all my life. Since me and Dean have met, I think Molly's on her 12th home. So we've moved around. We moved countries. We moved.
And how old is Molly?
She's 13.
Okay, so just for context.
Yeah, she's been around. But what we try and do is we just have those little bits of creature comfort, so they know, like, anytime we've moved house, the kids don't know anything until that bed's made in the new place and they're sleeping there. But they've been in how many hotels, how many different places around the world. So they just know that when they're with us, like, we could be in a cardboard box, as long as we're all together, we're good. But it's I feel like the more material possessions you've got, the more enclosed you are, and the more you can't keep moving and evolving and changing. And we're always on the go and always like, okay, this could be better. Let's do this. Let's do this. When we moved to America, we were in an apartment in Aberdeen. It was in the middle of COVID. And we just said, well, we've always wanted to move to America. Why are we still here? But there was all these restrictions with COVID, and there was visa stuff, and there was a lot going on. And we just said, let's just do it. So we got rid of everything we had, and we had 8 bags. There was 4 of us at the time. We had 8 bags, 2 bags each. Came across, we had to do 2 weeks in Mexico first. I found a rental property here that had, it was a model home, so it had furniture in it already. And then we just arrived, and we just started this new process. And if we never done that, we wouldn't be in the position we're in right now. It was scary. We didn't know how we were going to do things. We didn't have a job. We didn't know what we were actually going to do when we got here. We had a bit of savings, and that was it. But it's worked out really, really well. But we're always ready for change. And we work in disaster response as well. One of our one of the parts of our business is disaster response. And we see that when in a blink of an eye, the house could be burnt down, or, things could change in the blink of an eye. And it's like, know what's really, really important to you, and you're able to adapt to that a lot easier.
What that can teach you about embracing where you are, figuring it out, um, the unknown as well. I think that goes to the fear piece, right? We fear the
Yes,
unknown and not knowing what's on the other side. But you talk about the magic that comes when we step outside of our comfort zones. I believe that we're more resilient than we think we are.
for sure. I hear about people saying it to me all the time. I can't do it. One of the things I always compare it to is childbirth. When do you have children, Ashley?
Not yet. Hopefully soon.
So there's a part when you have the baby and the head comes out, and it's the most painful thing. You've just done all the contractions, you're in labor, the head comes out, and it's horrendously painful. And this little head is coming out, and you're like, that's it, I'm done. I can't do anymore. Like, this is it. This is the end. And then someone's like, well, there's shoulders still to come out. You've still got to push the rest of this baby out. And the shoulders are bigger than the head. And this was already very, very painful. So, but and then I remember with Harley, her little head was coming out, and I was like, I can't anymore. I'm done. Like, that's this, I'm done. And then they were like, oh, she's got the cord on her neck. And I was just like, oh, like straight away, it was like, push and get that baby out and make sure she's okay. You just find this extra strength that you have no idea that you have. And I think that as a woman, when you go through that process, it does remind you that, yeah, we have strength that we don't know how much we've got. We push ourselves to a limit, but when we really, really have to push it, when we have to, like, walk across those mountains or do that things to save our life or save our kids or whatever it might be, you always find that extra bit of strength when it's needed.
It's so good. It's such an encouragement. It really is. I think just, in stretching yourself because you don't know. I mean, you believe, right, that anything is possible and you put in the work and you do it. And I think there's so much in that. Earlier, you were talking about oftentimes maybe we're like feeling embarrassed about something, but to not be embarrassed. I heard you say something before in another interview about not knowing something, right? Like asking questions, learning something, not be to not think that how could you possibly know all the things that you don't know, but there's an opportunity
Like,
to learn. And it's such a big encouragement because we can be like, oh, I shouldn't do this thing because I don't have all the knowledge on this thing to be able to
yeah.
step in.
And it's strange, isn't it? Because we're almost brought up to have that bit of reserved anxiety, like, oh, I need to tell people I don't know this. Like, I love not knowing. I love learning. I'm constantly learning new things. And if I don't know, I'll ask. And I've got zero embarrassment for asking. I'm going to go and tell you that I don't know it. Like, I've got no ego or pride around any of that because I want to learn. I want to grow and keep evolving. But I think that I say the whole rocket science thing. People say it's not rocket science, but it's like rocket science, I'm sure, is hard. But once you learn it, a rocket scientist probably doesn't think it's that hard to be a rocket. It's taking the steps, right? What do I need to do? Where do I need to start? Where do I need to go? Like, whatever you want. If you want to be a brain surgeon, you're going to have to start on like 101 medicine, and you're going to go from there to learn. So the one thing that's banned in this house is can't. Like, I don't allow, like, I can. It's just like, no, like, let's find a way, let's work it out, let's go through it, but we're not giving up if we want something. So I think that there is this limitation that some people put on themselves to say, like, I'm not going to be able to do that. Literally, you can do anything you want to do.
I love that. I love that too on the limitations. I think oftentimes we put ourselves, I know I have put myself into a box. Like I used to be a college athlete and coming out of that was a whole journey of just this whole identity crisis because I was like, I'm an athlete. I do this and that's it. And I really have come a long way in stepping out and doing different things. But I think that there's often a limitation that we put on ourselves, or even just like, hey, I want to achieve this thing. And sometimes when we set a very concrete goal, I think sometimes that could be a limitation because you don't know what else could happen in the process. You don't know how you could push beyond that.
Yeah, and it comes from, I mean, for me, it's belief. One of, in my consultancy work, in my contract is you have to believe. Like, I can't work with you unless you believe in what it is you're going for. And I think if it's something you're passionate about, if it's something that you're really interested in, it's going to work. Like I am not, like my husband is an athlete. He is so disciplined when it comes to working out. He just goes for it. I can't stand it. I hate exercise. Like I wouldn't be able to say that in front of him because he'll be like, okay, we need to do something. But when I was in the pressure garment for a year, I was literally like kind of like that for a year. So when it came to sports and gym and all that, I was just sat out every time. I was just sat on the sidelines. So I never reintroduced myself into it. But I'm saying that in a way that I'm making excuses. I'm telling you all the excuses as to why I don't work out. And Dean had said to me, well, because my arms fused to my chest through the burns, and I've had a few operations to release, but always kind of contracts. So my body doesn't function properly in that way. So I'd never done a push-up, for example. There's a few things I'd never done. And Dean almost laughed at me for not being able to do it. And I thought, no, I'm going to do a push-up. Like I'm going to do it, and I'm going to and so I think 2 years ago, I was like, right, that's going to be my new goal, is to learn how to do a push-up. So I kind of had to learn how to use my arm a bit, learn how to do it. I'm on my knees just doing like little things. And then eventually the day came where I'd done the full push-up, and then I'd done 20 push-ups. And then it was, so it was the day one was horrible when I'm trying to work out how to put both my hands down and how I'm doing it. And then before long, you're doing 20 push-ups. And that was me just going, it wasn't me saying I want to be an athlete now. It was just me saying that actually, yeah, your mind is telling you that you can't do it because you've given yourself all these excuses since childhood that you were sat on the sidelines and doing all these things. So even for myself, if I find myself going, oh, I can't do that, or I don't I'll be okay. You've got to go and do it now, Alana. You've got to work out how to do that.
It's so good. It's like taking your power back in
Mm-hmm.
that way. Yeah. And how we can just give the power over to that fear or that past experience, whatever that thing is that's saying you won't be able to do this thing. And I
Yeah.
love too, like getting how you said you initially when you first started that process of doing a push up to getting to do 20, it's that step by step over time. And then you realize here you are and being able to appreciate yourself and your body and all of that,
Mm-hmm.
I think is a really cool experience.
Yeah. It's the ever evolving, isn't it? And I think that's probably for my evolution, that's my next stage, is to build as I'm getting older. I'm like, okay, maybe I could get into this physical exercise world. Like I think I just get bored watching Dean do it all the time. I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. No.
Yeah, just go out and try different things and see which one you're like, all right, I like this
Yeah.
one, right? There's so many different options in fitness. It's amazing, like what even continues to evolve in that space and with longevity and all these, wearables and
Well,
everything.
I did meet some friends today. They've have an organization called Deep End Fitness, and it's
Mm.
basically underwater fitness. And I was like, I could do that. I like being underwater, like something that I can do. So I might give that a go next.
Exactly. Yeah, make it fun, right?
Good.
It's so good. Okay, so you have many different ventures. The Blue Rose Foundation, SCI Security, Wolf Raven Omni Media, podcasting, various consulting work. I know I'm missing a lot in there too, but just to name a few, right? Okay, so people often see the outward successes. What is something that maybe people don't understand or don't see in the process that is so important and key to the work you're doing and some of those challenges that you have to overcome that maybe aren't so on the surface?
I would say it's the sacrifice, isn't it? It's the daily, like because I'm so lucky that I have a job that I enjoy doing that earns money, and then I've got my purpose as well. So the work that I do through the Blue Rose Foundation, that's this is my calling every day. That's what I need to do. There's people that need help, and I get to do this. But I've got 3 kids, and I've got a husband, and I've got other family and friends. And I would say my friends, bless them, are like right down at the bottom because they're always the last ones that, Alana, do you want to have a night out? Okay. Like, no, not really. I'm too busy. I'm working. But, so they'll just wait for when it comes around. But so those types of things, when people are like, I think the worst thing I ever hear is, you're so lucky. You're so lucky. And it's like, it's not luck. It's hard work. It's sleepless nights. It's sacrifice. It's missing things that you want to be at. It's trying to work out where to prioritize things. It's maybe getting it wrong and then noticing that you're getting it wrong. And it just, I try every day to do all the things and get it right. But I kind of stopped being so hard on myself. Probably, I'd say last year, the year before last, I really went, actually, no, you don't have to be up all night doing it. You don't have to never stop working. You have to. So I just got to a stage where I was like, this is my cutoff. This is where I stop. I'll be with the kids then. I'll be with Dean then. We'll do some stuff. And then things like, I started taking the weekends back. I was like, no more working at the weekends. Let's just, this is their time. And this is the time that we're going to grow with them. And that really changed, just getting more disciplined on when I would do it and when I would start and when I would stop. I'm still very, very, very bad at taking on more work. If people need help or if people need, I'm like, yeah, okay, go on then. I'll do that. I'll do that. I need to get more disciplined that way, but who knows if that'll happen.
Yeah, for sure. I love the I mean, that was going to be my next question, and all the things you're doing and just blending that, having that drive that continues or that pushes you to, continue to show up to the work that really matters and what you're doing.
I'm really blessed that Dean always supports whatever I'm doing, so I can do pretty wild stuff. I mean, right now, I'm currently drafting a bill to make grooming illegal. So you'll probably hear me talking about grooming a lot. So I'm working on bringing in some laws around grooming and working on some campaigns around it. So sometimes he just has to listen to me talking about child sexual abuse and grooming and predators and pedophiles, and he's like, "Oh, okay, are we nearly done there?" But he'll listen and he'll get involved and he'll say, what do I need to do and how can I help? And that works really well. I think if I ever was doing something and Dean went, no, Alana, I don't think you should be doing this. I don't think this is right. Then that would be a call to me to step back and be like, why is he not supporting this? Because normally he would be very supportive. And then things like with, for example, the Anti-Grooming Act, I've got my daughter involved, so we have to reach out to Congress and we have to reach out to Senate and we have to do all these things. So I've got her like writing the list of people we need to contact and finding their information and making little spreadsheets. So she's involved in it to an age appropriate way where it's okay for her to learn stuff. So if she really enjoys it, she'll come home from school and she'll start writing more lists and doing her thing. So that keeps her kind of in with what we're doing. And then that's the one thing that we've really tried to do lately, is involve the whole family. Like, everybody has a say in what we're about to do next. And if we're not all happy with it, then we'll sit down and we'll talk about it and find out how we can get a compromise.
That's amazing. And that support, I think, that you share and the dynamic with Dean and just learning more about that shared purpose, I think is really unique and powerful. And I imagine something that it is what keeps you continuing to show up and knowing that you have that support with everybody within your home.
Yeah. It doesn't have to be a shared purpose, as in a shared desire on what you're both doing. For example, when Dean was doing the bike ride, as I say, fitness wasn't my thing. Bikes aren't my thing. Lycra is not my thing, but it was his thing, and that's what he wanted to do. So I had to find a way that I could get involved and be helping him in a way that would satisfy me. So the fundraising came very naturally to me. So I was like, right, I'll do that bit. I'll help you plan the route. I'll do these types of logistical things because that's where my head will work. And you train and you make sure you're getting you're in the peak physical condition. You do all that side, I'll do all this side, and we'll work it together. So I had to find a way to make his dream and his passion part of my life too. And I think sometimes that's where we can stumble a bit, is when we have our separate work lives and our separate dreams and our separate goals and our separate purposes, and we don't understand them and don't want to listen to them. That kind of causes that drift apart. You have to find a way to be involved.
I love that. And like, great point, I think, that you said about not it being the shared as in same purpose, because I find that too with my husband. He does his own ventures, an entrepreneur, and has his business, and I do, my thing. And there's so many differences in the things that we care about and what we're passionate about, but coming together in these ways, or how can we complement in those strengths and
Yeah.
lift one another up. And like, some things are in your lane and you do that, and some things are in my lane and I do that, and it's that coming together, and it's really amazing to to learn about that with you.
Yeah. I think I hear about people complaining about it a lot about, well, he's doing this and he's doing that. And I'm like, well, could you find a way to get involved? It doesn't have to be exactly what you like. If he's playing golf every day, you don't have to do the golf, but maybe meet him for a drink at the 18th hole or something. Maybe there's some little thing you could build into that that makes it part of both your lives. Like, there's always something that you can help another person with. And I think that coming together, that teamwork, that community, that is part of family too.
So good. Thanks so much for everything, for being here and everything that you shared. I have one more question for you. And so I know that you have done a lot of different interviews. You've been featured on many different podcasts and sharing, different stories and experiences in your work in different contexts. So, what is something to you that, whether it's one of the challenging moments throughout your life, or something that is very significant and important to you in your career and the work that you're doing, that people don't ask you about?
Mhm. What do people ask me about? Gosh, that's really difficult because I think I talk a lot about the trafficking side. I talk about my family. I don't really talk about my work very often, as in the work that actually makes us money, So I've worked in the security world for a long time, but my actual work is open source intelligence. So I do intelligence checks, background checks, due diligence. I find out information for people that need to know things, and it's actually probably one of the things I very rarely talk about. But it literally is how we pay the bills in the house. So, but it's probably not that exciting. It's probably not as exciting as everything else, but it's a really enjoyable job, and it just came from, I guess, working in the security and knowing that angle, and just being really good at being nosy, I guess. Just
Yeah, exactly. Well, no, that's super interesting. Some unique abilities to find out certain information that maybe we don't want to know. That's uh,
yeah. Well, everything that I do is OSINT is the actual title, so it's open source intelligence. So everything that I gather is open source. Like, you could find it and they could find it. There's just ways to find this information that some people might not maybe know how to do it. And I mean, most of the work that I do is governed by NDAs, so I can't really talk about
sure.
most of it.
Yeah.
It is
Maybe that's why it's not talked about so much.
Yeah, but when I get into it, normally if I get a job, I have to go straight into it, because as soon as I see what the job is, I just get excited and I have to start going. My worst thing is, and even though I wrote a book called How to Ask for Money, like, when somebody comes to me and tells me the thing, I have to get working on it straight away. And then I'm like, oh, I still need to actually like contract with them. But it gets really exciting for me to try and find something out, especially if it's about bad people. If somebody's been hurt, if it's stalkers or somebody's like harming somebody, like, I want to get onto it immediately and find out what's happening. And it's good fun.
It's amazing. Thank you for being here. I'm excited to continue to follow along your journey, and everything that you're doing. And I know I don't even know the half.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been great talking.
Yes, thank you. And yeah, I look forward to staying connected. And thanks so much for your time and being here.
Thank you.